Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday.
Agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday.
Agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
What about the 4th of July?
Oh, that's Independence Day for all Americans.
You think Juneteenth's not for all Americans?
No, they didn't make it for all Americans.
What do you think they made it for?
Black people.
Why do you think that? Seriously, I like to have these questions. Like, why do you think that?
Because that's what we were told.
That's what we were told.
What? Yeah. All of a sudden, they don't know nothing. I don't know. It's what we were told. We didn't do any research. We don't know nothing. This is why people don't like Republicans. She didn't even think. It was a no-brainer. Like, look at it.
Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday.
Agree.
No. Right off the bat, she didn't even process it. So she heard Juneteenth and she was like,
Hair to the no. To the no, hair to the no.
Pure ignorance and definitely some ground in hatred there. Betty Sue, relax. Sister, Juneteenth, because we wasn't free, Betty Sue. That's why we got our whole separate Independence Day. Because as y'all was shooting off y'all fireworks and y'all sparklers, we were still bound in chains and all that wicked stuff. That's why she said, we don't know. I tell you what, though.
Anybody. I'm gonna have to drop out.
This is real. Like my freshman year in college, I came across this Caucasian sister, cool sister, ended up being a cool sister. And we were just talking and I was on my pro-black tip. I'm like, you know what you know about MLK, what you know about Frederick Douglass? And she barely knew about MLK. And you would think they teach that nationwide. He got streets named after him. She was like, I said, who is Martin Luther King? She said, some guy, he had a dream, didn't he? This was a college student. All right, let's get the context. So a lot of these Caucasian folks, I have learned, they really live in their own bubble. They don't care about much else going on outside their culture. That's interesting, huh?
They don't pay attention to it because of the fact that white people can maybe either participate within the society as a whole, or they can isolate themselves. And they do it, it's sort of like you get the whitest white people, then you get, the regular white people. The whitest white people is probably like her. They literally can be to just be like off on their own. Like I live in Michigan. So like there is racial groups and stuff, racist groups and stuff up north. Need I say more? They choose to separate. They're separatists. They choose to sit. They'd be out up in them woods doing their own thing. So so is it not surprising that that sort of like socially and psychologically they sort of separate themselves because they don't have to really think about it.
Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday.
Agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
What about the 4th of July?
Oh, that's Independence Day for all Americans.
You think Juneteenth's not for all Americans?
No, they didn't make it for all Americans.
What do you think they made it for?
Black people.
Why do you think that? Seriously, I like to have these questions. Like, why do you think that?
Because that's what we were told.
That's what we were told.
That it's Juneteenth
for slavery, right?
Right.
Yeah, but okay. So, do you think that blacks should celebrate being enslaved?
No.
You think they should celebrate being free?
But we all are.
Yeah. So I know. I'm just asking. Because they're celebrating being free.
Okay, but Irish were slaves.
I know. We
don't have an Irish teeth day.
You should.
No, that's.
She says Irish people were enslaved too. They're gonna move that goal line, baby.
What? Irish Teeth Day? Like that sounds scary and wicked. Why would it be called Irish Teeth Day? And there's a thing, like, why do they do that? What is that? Like they did not want to get to it. He started backing them into that corner of accountability. Said, why would melanated folks, celebrate being enslaved? She's like, they shouldn't. Well, what do you think Juneteenth is? It's like, what Irish? Like, here's the thing. I understand that's triggering, right? Don't let it trigger you. I truly believe that is one of their tactics. They know they deflecting. They're not about to sit here and let you talk them back into that corner of guilt and shame. No. And once you see folks act like that and don't want to answer questions directly, acknowledge who they are, put them in the appropriate column, and meet them where they are. Don't sit there and try to fight them unless you up for the challenge. Then go ahead.
So the thing is that for her to be able to put the Irish in there, well, let's talk some history here. Irish people and stuff basically been fighting their European cousins for a minute. Yes, they were slaves temporarily. Versus black folks. Well, actually, let me get this right. So they were slaves for for a short period of time. I mean, let's keep it 100. We technically, for black people, been enslaved in this country for 400 something years. There has been a continuous program of basically keeping black people in a box, socially, psychologically, economically, spiritually. The list goes on. Irish people, they socially rose up, I would say roughly about the 1900s or so. When they get, because the first, like I say, first red wave, they basically, white folks were hating on them, whatnot. But eventually they learned the culture of America. And that's how they became successful in this country. But even while they were growing socially, the other part of it is black folks, they still kept us in a box. Jim Crow, you name it.
You know what? A fact I find fascinating. Shout out to the movie Sinners. Like you had the melanated folks, and then you had the Irish folks outside. And here's the thing in history: Irish and melanated folks always got along. Yes, for the most part, outside of maybe like gangs and little wars like that, drug wars, but they got along. Even shout out to Jameson whiskey. They made a whole commercial with it where they had this strapping Irish dude up there at the bar telling this history, and then they pan to his wife behind him, and it was this natural haired sister holding a baby. Because back then, the Irish, because y'all called it in the chat, the Irish were not slaves, they were indentured servants. We shared a similar struggle, so we bonded on that level. Like even when I did my DNA test, I found out I'm like freaking 15. No, I'm like 20% Irish. I think my great grandma is an Irish woman. It's just facts. I thought I was black as heck, but guess not.
I'm listening, and you all talking about Trump and food stamps and yada yada. You know, man, who's starting these protests?
You said who's starting them?
Yeah, who's starting?
It looked like melanated folks is starting the protest.
George Soros.
The big money billionaires are starting this, man.
Okay.
If you look at also the Communist Party, if you ever look at one of their posters, you'll see who sponsors the protest, and down below you will see the CCP down there, the Communist Party. So, you all talking about Democrats, man. Look at the Democrats program the last 4 years. You know what our problem is? We voted Republican before 57. Okay, remember the slave owners were Democrat. Okay, they get invited to the Republican Party up north, and then it changed Democrat. LBJ said after Kennedy got assassinated, if we can get these ends to vote Democrat, they'll be voting for the next 200 years. That's on record. Okay,
Facts.
So before Trump, our people wouldn't even consider dealing with Republicans, right? We knew nothing about Republicans. We don't know historically Republicans got what they learned from us. Family, religion, and honor. These were dogs, man. They lived in caves. They knew nothing about family, religion, and order, spirituality. They had no clue. So now we see this big old fight. They wanted to pass a Congress resolution, a clear resolution to keep the government open. Back in March, the Democrats agreed they would keep the government open through November. It's on paper. Then all of a sudden they changed their minds because it's all about health care for illegal immigrants. Read it. I'm not going to do the research for you. Do your own research. That's what Malcolm said. So please read up on this stuff. Don't be talking about what Trump gonna do. Woo, woo, woo. Who's stopping him from getting these illegals out of here?
Let me go off what you said. I appreciate the knowledge you brought into the room here. Here we go. The original Triple K was formed by Confederate veterans in 1865 and became a paramilitary force for the Democratic Party. And
I'm so glad y'all saying this because I have been crucified for saying this for years.
Its purpose was to violently oppose the Republican Party policies aimed at establishing political and economic rights for Black Americans. Interesting. This is what I like this. I like to go to the origin of things. Like, how can I, this is my perspective, my individual perspective. How can I jump on the train of an organization that started that banned and relied on the organization that was making my people strange fruit? I be damned. Ain't no way.
I like to have these questions. Like, why do you think that?
Because that's what we were told.
That's what we were told.
That it's Juneteenth
for slavery, right?
Right.
Yeah, but okay, so do you think that blacks should celebrate being enslaved?
No.
You think they should celebrate being free?
But we all are.
Yeah. So I know. I'm just asking. Because they're celebrating being free.
Okay, but Irish were slaves.
I know. We
don't have an Irish Teeth Day.
You should.
No, that's getting too. It's dividing us more. It's dividing.
Oh, you think
too many days
yes.
off?
Too many days?
Yeah, I have a business. Too many days off.
So you think that we should just do everything on the 4th of July?
Yeah, it's Independence Day for.
But do you think Juneteenth should be a holiday? That's what they're talking about.
Do I think what?
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth is a holiday. Listen, man, white folks been celebrating 4th of July just like we have for a long time. Juneteenth is just a recent addition. Okay, black folks don't understand Juneteenth. You know, it was 5 Juneteenths. It was 5 times we tried to get free. Do you understand that? Historically. So you got to read history, man. You got to understand what's going on. And why should we be concerned what white folks think anyway? White folks ain't changed in your lifetime, okay? Why are we concerned about what they think?
I agree
Remember,
with you.
they are over 4-1 on us. Their population and ours. So why are we thinking what they thinking?
It's bigger than that.
Times as many people as we are.
It's like 6-1. It's like 6-1.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like 6-1. You're right. There's 69 to 70% population.
Yeah.
So you don't think we should have a Juneteenth? We should just scrap Juneteenth?
You know. Remember Malcolm said, let's do our own thing. We ain't got to worry about nobody else. No, we got to include him in our stuff.
I was just saying, you see how easy that fuse is lit with that question? It's still so much tension in there that all you got to do is ask one question, and it already starts. And you don't think that the Republicans, Democrats, and all people in power see that? It's still easy. It's just that easy. Just one building, one young black man, one question, and the fuse is lit. It's still so. It's sad that it's that easy, and it's went from Big Unc Baba, which is my father's generation, to I have children and I'm old enough to just about be a grandfather, and it's still that easy. That's what I find sad about is we haven't learned, or I would say we have learned because we've grown. We have actual brothers that are smart enough, like Brother Gavin, but it's not catching on. It's not catching on. And Money T sees that, man, and it's just like all I gotta do is just take the food stamps away. We got
to stop being so predictable as a culture, man. That's one of the rules of war, right? Who's that Asian philosopher?
And that applies to so many things, Mr. Walker, like you were telling me the other day when we were talking about, the child support. Yep. Man, so you can't be emotions just mess up everything. Just from everything. And it's so easy.
My father-in-law says anytime, in any situation, come up with anyone you want. Anytime you interject pride, foolish pride, ego, or what was it, emotion into the situation, you're always gonna get an undesirable outcome every single time.
So we saying that they're doing this to us specifically, or they're just doing this to emotional people because they know emotional people are gonna respond emotionally?
Well, there you go. I believe who's the emotional people? That bottom rung of folks that's having a hard time in life. Like that's we come from there. Like I know we had a bird's eye view from that point of I know what I'm talking about. So it's that bottom rung, not the working poor, the poor. These folks that are crashing out over food stamps, they are naturally emotional. If they weren't emotional, I believe they wouldn't be on that bottom rung.
All I'm saying is, like, I just had a newborn. We was in the hospital for a while, and nurses and doctors making 70, 80, 120, 150. They get emotional too for simply me asking a question about how things are functioning.
Well,
So
I see what you're saying. Like, and that that is kind of like some kind of bias. Say you trying to get an understanding of what's going on. I know, brother, you got me triggered. I know what you're talking about. Oh man, F them, man. I
So
can see
it's
the doctor
like,
now trying to sit there and say, oh, your kid needs this or this, and like, you know what? I read different. I don't want that, and they keep trying to push it, or you just want clarity on something. I think that's just bias and bigotry. Yeah, I think that's something different.
And what you got, brother JW?
So the thing, also, folks who are in healthcare, they're right at the intersection of this unique intersection where they deal with the poorest of the poor. Think about it. It's not like, they deal with basically everybody, the middle class, people on the street and whatnot. So, it makes sense and stuff of why they sort of tripping because of the fact that on a certain level, because of how the public health is it directly, affects their jobs. Because if they're not doing their part and stuff to be able to take care of people and stuff like that, guess what? That somebody's going to get fired, and at worst, the hospital get closed down if they don't, take care of people properly.
I just jumped in well, I got comments on the, racing the Republicans, but the hospital stuff, they come at you with that emotional hostility, and this is coming from somebody who works in the hospital 60 hours a week. Okay, so I'm there 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. I work in the emergency room. I do critical care. It's their ego. It's their ego that you're in there having a nerve, and they feel like that you're questioning their damn medical background and knowledge. And let me tell you something. As somebody who works there, you damn sure better question what you're seeing and what they're doing. I tell people all the time, if you actually knew what was going on behind the scenes in these hospitals, you wouldn't go.
Thank you for saying that.
You would. And I am a critical care respiratory therapist. All I deal with is the sick of the sick, life-ending stuff. That's all I deal with. I don't hand out Tylenol. I do life support, mechanical ventilation, cardiac stuff. So that's all I do. So I specialize. And I'm telling you, and I always tell people this all the time. This is the advice I give people, especially if you're in an emergency room. If you're in an emergency room and the loved one that you're there with is going through emergency and there's a full room full of people, pay attention to the people that are not the doctor. Their body language will tell you if something's going wrong.
The nurses, and I see what you mean. Like
respiratory, when you in an emergency room and there's a critical issue, you got 3 people in the room: the doctor, the nurse, and your respiratory therapist. We're all there during emergency. If it's extremely quiet in there, something's wrong. If people keep side-eyeing the doctor, something's wrong. And a lot of times the regular populace don't understand this because you don't understand the medical stuff that's going on. And you don't understand the culture of the hospital. So I always tell people, and it's hard to pay attention to other things when you got a loved one there sick and fighting for their life, to pay attention to what is actually going on in the room. The moment that room gets quiet, meaning people stop talking, people start side-eyeing, you see people like taking deep breaths or turning their backs. The number one thing you can see is when people start turning their backs on the doctor, something's wrong. I'm not trying to scare folk half to death. I'm just saying, you know, what to be on the lookout for. And let me tell you something, 9 times out of 10, they take liberties with people that look like everybody on this panel. That's who they take liberties with. And that's who they decide. Last night, I'll give you an example from last night. We had a man who went from, we think we were going to put him on a regular floor. He went from being stable. We stabilized him. He was doing extremely well. And in a blink of an eye, he went non-responsive. And they called me to the room. They always call respiratory. So they called me to the room. I come in the room. I take one look at the patient. I go get the doctor. I said, hey, we need to go ahead. We got to go ahead and we got to protect this man's airway. We got to go do this. We got to do that. We got to put him on life support. I said, because he's crumping out. Doctor walks in the room, looks at the patient and goes, we'll give it a little bit more time. This was a black man. And I get in a lot of trouble at the hospital because I will crash out on a doctor, on an administrator, on a nurse about when it's time to do life-saving intervention. I'm telling you guys, it's a miracle I still have my job after 10 years, the amount of crash outs I've done on doctors. I've called them dumpster fires. I told them to go work other places. I told them to leave. I kicked them out of the room. I kicked a doctor out of a room because I'm so passionate about, I see the disparity in the treatment of us in the medical field, especially the men. I'm not saying that they don't mistreat the ladies, because they will, but brothers, whoo, if you go to the hospital, that one auntie, that one sister that's always on tilt and really and ready to crash out on the slightest thing, that's what that skill set is good for, is in that environment. It ain't good in any other environment, because it'll possibly get your life saved.
Or it'll lead to lock him up. You better watch out for that. Lock him up. See, you're gonna get us in trouble, man.
So I hate to derail the conversation over to that, but that healthcare thing, because I see it every day and I understand how important for good advocacy is. So I just had to stop up on that. But the Republicans and the Democratic Party, I'm going back to the subject a little bit, they are always going to push the hot button topics of racism because it's distracting from what they're not doing.
Quick.
And we are so primed. I'm not just black folk, but white folk too. We are so primed to go to war over their distractions.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that white folk ain't racist. White folk, I don't care about white folk being racist. I done got old enough where I just don't care about it. As long as you're not doing anything to try to affect my bottom line, affect me taking care of my family, you can be as racist as you want to be.
All right? I don't want my children dating blacks.
That should be okay.
That's okay. All right. Black women are hard to deal with in customer service.
Negative.
Okay. Black culture is toxic.
Negative.
Black men need to stop abandoning their women.
True.
True. Saying the N-word.
N-word.
Yeah, is that racist or not?
No.
Okay.
I mean, no.
All right. I want to preserve white culture.
To an extent, yeah.
This dude drunk. So here we are.
Look at the
this
dog.
guy here. He asked him, "Would you let your daughter date a black man?" He said, "Hell no." All right. He said, saying the N-word, that's racist. No. He's holding a potato. What's going on?
That's my question. What's up with the spud?
Look, what you want me to do? I know who these people are. I'm tired of arguing about who they are. You know, to some degree, he has a point about the N-word, though. I'll be honest with you on that one. Like, that's an L that we all took trying to force them to not say a word. Because now with us being content creators on YouTube, and then they have a whole list of words that we can't say or else. And I know how that feels, and I know how stupid it seems. Some of the words they said we can't say. But who we want these people to be? I want to be exactly who they are.
I was gonna hit you. The title of the show is we talking more or less Mega madness. Will things get better or worse? Has things gotten as bad as they're gonna get or not?
No, of course not. I mean, but Trump said that though, right? Right after he first got elected, he was like, people know things are gonna get bad, but I think people are gonna understand that they need to get bad first before they can get better, and this and that, blah blah blah. And the people who are conservative douchebags are gonna make excuses for that, and then everybody else is just gonna have to suffer, and it just is what it is. I think either way you look at it, right? The chickens are coming home to roost for this country, man. Right? It's been a bad deal all the way around. Wherever you look at, wherever America has touched down at politically around the world, it's been a bad deal for them, and I think that's coming home to roost.
You think it's gonna get worse, or is it as bad as it is now? Or you think?
Yeah, of course it's gonna get worse.
Okay. See, that's
already
scary.
seeing hangings again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Seen a lot of them, yeah.
White people getting beat up in Ohio, right? For no reason, right? It's a lot. The racial tension is high again. Nobody's actually trying to quell it, really. Even the ones who saying they aren't really trying to. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, we need to stop the violence, and then in the next breath, it's like, yo, we need to put pressure and do this and do that, and everybody got to stand up. It's like there's no way to really, and then I don't even want to go the religious route. If you believe the religion, then it's gonna get worse, right? Because that's exactly what it says is gonna happen. So of course it's gonna get worse, and I'm looking forward to it.
And I'll say, before you came up here, we were talking about the Insurrection Act, and they talk about ending food stamps. People say they're gonna run up in Walmart and start stealing. And if they give the National Guard the authority to start arresting regular people, because they don't have that power right now, according to the laws, but if he enacted, it's gonna get real wonky real fast.
But won't it be beautiful though, right? If you believe in karma, won't it be beautiful for Trump to become the kind of dictator that America has always shunned around the world? And for America to look like some of these other places look, just for some other country to come in and do to America what America has done to other countries around the world, right? Like, I mean, is it gonna suck? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, at least I'll know karma don't just work on me, right? The karma has to have more work to do than just besides in my life, because it's like I get punished for every single thing I do. So allow that to play out here. Cool. I'm glad. Do all you're gonna do, right? Take all the food stamps away, make people go crazy, put your military out there. They're gonna start killing people and all that, and the country go to hell. I'm cool with that, man. Like, let it happen. Because that's the only way you're gonna reset anything anyway. Sometimes you gotta let shit burn down. Like what else we gonna do? Do another kumbaya where we pretend everything is okay for 4 years and just have the same cycle of BS? Return, like, nah, just it's okay, man. Let this happen.
Hey Beans.
As unfortunate as that sound, Beans, that's a lot of folks' sentiment. It just got to burn down, huh?
Beans,
So they got to make it sound better. Fire doesn't come to destroy; it comes to cleanse. All right, just make sure you ain't getting cleansed.
Beans, have you ever heard the term wolf tickets?
Absolutely.
That's what I think Boom Queesh and them is doing out there on Tickety Talk and YouTube, talking about what they put a run up in. They selling wolf tickets. We sell more wolf tickets in a little bit. We always talk about what we gonna do and never do nothing. They just talking. They wilding and talking. That's what black women, they jump in our beans. They jump in our face selling wolf tickets. How many black women have told you over the years that they gonna put the foo-fops on you, and they just talking, knowing they can't do nothing about it?
Well, the reports are that, not recently, but I think it was either early this year or last year, Walmart was shutting down places because they were stealing so much. Right?
But they're not doing grocery store run, and they in there stealing. They're not robbing the grocery store part of.
It wasn't like
we just seen the video where she had a book bag full of shrimp, scampi, and steak. She just did it. Like,
yeah. I'm talking about in general. I mean, we live in these neighborhoods where they stealing and closing down Walgreens. I was in Walgreens, man. This dude filled up a whole grocery cart full of beer and Crown Royal and walked out the door. That's what they stealing. They ain't stealing no food. Not on that level. And I I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe I'm
They
just
didn't have a reason
naive.
to at first though.
Huh?
So that like they didn't have a reason to, right? The food stamp card
Food
purchased
stamps.
them clothes and liquor, so that's what they stole. They was able to go buy food. But now if you tell them they can't buy no food, they ain't gonna have no choice but to steal it. What else they gonna do?
These women can buy food, man. They find a way to do everything. They got $500, $600 hairstyles and $200 raptor claws and $80 lashes, caterpillar lashes on. These chicks can find. I'll believe it when I see it. I think they woofing.
They sold their food stamps for that. They sold the food stamps to get that stuff. Now they have no food
a lot
stamps.
of times. Yeah, a lot of times.
And no thing is, I don't think we understand. It's psychological. Some people refuse to spend cash for food at the grocery store. That's a whole psychological thing in itself.
Let me tell you, it sucks. I just came from the grocery store yesterday, got 3 bags of food, and it was $180. I get it.
But yeah, I would say, imagine if you never, for the last 15 years, spent any money on food. And you just go, it's not a natural thing.
Yeah, y'all don't get it. That was my mom. A while back, me and my mom went to the grocery store, and this is true. We get up there, and I go to cash out. And she tried to hand me her food stamp card, and I was like, "Mom, I ain't taking your money." And I said, "Mom, I got to pay cash." And like Miss X is pointing out, she was bewildered at the thought. She said, "Cash? Why would you do that?" I said, "It's all I can do. It's all I got, Mama. They won't put us on. They won't let us get the food stamps." My wife tried to get food stamps. They laughed at her.
I bet you they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic, nephew. Tomorrow, I'm supposed to be doing a debate, right, on a big channel, right? And they asked me to come up with the prompt, and I wanted so bad to stay away from this, right? I'm like, man, should I talk about Republicans? Should I talk about women? Like, what should I? And then it's just like so much of this is going on. I was like, you know what? Look, let's just do government assistance, right? Like, I don't even want to do it, but I'm like, let's just do it because it's so many misnomers about the situation in the beginning of the conversation. Most people are coming into the conversation with false information.
There you go.
They don't know what they're talking about. They think it's this or that or this or that, and it ain't even really that. Everybody thinking that, oh, my money going towards this. It's not, right? So I'm going to be able to bring out all these receipts and let everybody know that all of y'all are full of shit and that every single one of y'all, if you could qualify for any kind of government assistance, would take it.
I would.
And the real issue ain't that other people get it. Your issue is that you don't.
Yeah, sure. We had somebody up here say that. I don't know who was said they jealous. Yeah, shoot, me same. Thanks, yeah. I would. Yeah, there you go. I wish I could. I got food stamps one time in college. And I worked 1 hour too much a week, and they took my stamps. I was eating good, baby.
That's
I saw a small video on this. I'm hoping it's not a starting something, but the guy said, "Well, why would I go into the Walmart and steal when I can just meet you in the parking lot in my car and open the door and take it from you in the grocery in the parking lot?" So they're going to just start coming up with ways to take stuff from you. If I can't go in the store, I just get the groceries in the parking lot.
And I'm like, that's stupid though.
You go from theft to armed robbery,
right? You just escalated the charge.
But the thing, and it's like, but if you come up with that idea, that creative, that's physically working. You can think of something. Why right away they think, well, I don't have food stamps, I'm gonna steal.
I mean, listen,
it's not that creative.
I want to ask this question. I want to ask this question though. Because we say that a lot, right? Like people could just go get a job. Is there anybody on this panel right now? And I know somebody gonna want to lie, so we'll hit a lie when we hear it. No offense. Is there anybody on this panel right now that would work for $13 an hour? Raise your hand.
That would?
That
Yes.
would? Absolutely.
Yes.
Have.
I have. 2025 economy.
You could.
You go do it.
That I would if I had to.
See, but had to is subjective.
He said, "Will you?" As of today,
right.
No, nobody will not. Besides Baba T, because Baba T gets Social Security, so he can make a little extra on this.
Yeah, I would be delaying the inevitable. So
I would say this. I would say that to that means that competence get compensated. So it depends on how competent people are on this panel. I would think we are all competent people. So it's not. Really?
But if I could keep my family afloat, I would do it. You know, like if I was saying here, like, all right, let's go over the debits and credits, making $13 an hour, cleaning out garbage cans in offices. If I can keep us afloat, yes, because I've done it. But if I'm saying like $13 an hour is only gonna keep us afloat for a week, I can't take that option. But not too good.
If that's all you qualified for, though, that's the whole thing behind it. If you was uneducated, you didn't know much, you could barely see and walk, you're gonna be greeting at Walmart. It is what it is.
Well, I mean, I understand the argument, but the president, I'm sure, if I'm wrong, correct me. I don't think that nigga graduated from college, and he a felon, and he's the president of the United States.
He
So the
graduated from college.
qualification. Oh, he did.
Yeah, he has an MBA from the Wheaton School of Business in New York. Yeah,
there you go. I mean, when you got that kind of money, you can purchase a lot of stuff. But what I'm saying is this, right? The fact of the matter is, even if I conceded to the qualified argument, Gavin, is the fact of the matter is most businesses ain't in the business of paying people what they deserve, right? Most businesses are trying to pay as little as they possibly can so that they can make more, right? So the reason why you see the median incomes and it's not 100K is because most businesses don't pay that, right? So now you think at $13 an hour, if you work 40 hours a week, that's like what, $520 before taxes, right? So after taxes, let's just say they take $60. So you're talking about $440 a week, right? That's $1,760 a month. Your wife will leave you, and you and I both know it, right? Like, let's just be honest. You're gonna get mistreated, dogged out, walked over, treated like crap, because that's all you're doing. And then in your mind, you like, but I thought the people said as long as I'm doing something beats nothing. And then you go get this something that's supposed to be nothing, and then you get dogged out for doing that. And now it make more sense to sell drugs, crack cards, scam, rob, all this other stuff that brings you more, because that's the only thing people value from a man is more. And I'm not making excuses for it. I'm explaining it to those who choose not to think.
Is this a campaign for Nug Nug to become Nug Nugs or something?
I literally just said I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm explaining it to those who choose not to think, right? The people who don't want to understand why people make certain choices. They just want to judge you for the choices you make, as if we couldn't judge none of their choices, right?
I would say
just sense. That's all I'm doing.
Anything does beat nothing. Yeah, I don't care what minimum wage, whatever that is, $8 beats nothing. However, I think as adults, you know, we gotta come to terms that, hey, when things are hard, this is what hard times look like. A hard time may look like working for minimum wage, and as a man, your family deserts you. It sucks like heck. You know, it ain't fair, ain't cool, hurts to the core, but that's life, you know.